Why are politicians suddenly convinced TikTok is brainwashing children? Well, I think I know why. They just don't really understand how it works. You have no doubt all heard about the dangerous new TikTok trend sweeping the nation. China's great and powerful cyber weapon has convinced the teenagers of America that Osama bin Laden was actually a pretty cool guy. And now they're all sharing his 2002 letter to America. But after spending way too much time digging into this, I'm actually pretty convinced this was never really a thing on TikTok. Based on what I've seen from screenshots and cached Google data of deleted videos, I'm comfortable saying there was probably only around 300 to 500 unique videos about the letter. A few of these had a couple million views, but that isn't actually a lot for TikTok. What made this trend go viral was the outrage generated by people tweeting about it, like this post that has over 30 million views. In fact, even TikTok has released a statement saying the hashtag about bin Laden's letter jumped from 2 to 13 million views after journalists started tweeting about it. So why does it matter? Well, a whole lot of folks right now are looking for any excuse to ban TikTok, and they're more than comfortable cherry-picking random nonsense out of the app to fit that agenda. But all you really accomplish by amplifying stuff like this is helping conservatives continue their culture war against how us average people communicate online. Not every dumb post needs to be a news story, but the TikTok moral panic isn't going away. Buried down in a recent CNN piece about how the Biden administration is struggling with the complex generational politics of the current conflict in Israel and Palestine is an interesting tidbit about TikTok. It reads, "The White House is warily monitoring developments like how the Chinese government-controlled TikTok algorithm just happens to be prioritizing anti-Israel content on the social media platform preferred by many under 30. This, of course, is very dumb and a waste of everyone's time. But I'm glad the Democrats are finding ways to keep busy. As NBC News reporter Ben Collins snarked, "Blame TikTok, that'll surely win the kids back." But I do think it illustrates a very prevalent misunderstanding about how TikTok operates and now the larger internet. And it's being brought to light because of the conflict in Israel and Palestine. But the best descriptions I've seen about the current state of the internet were actually written months before fighting broke out in the Middle East and were written about a completely different topic. Semaphore's Max Tanney coined the term the fragmentation election, which was a riff on writer John Herman's similar idea, the nowhere election. Tanney points to declining media institutions and dying platforms as the culprit for all the amorphousness online right now, and Herman latches onto podcasts and indie media. To piggyback off both of them, and to go a bit broader, as I typically do, I'm going to call our current moment the vapor web, because there is actually more internet with more happening on it, and with bigger geopolitical stakes than ever before, and yet it's nearly impossible to grab a hold of because none of it adds up into anything coherent. Simply put, we're post-viral now. After a couple of years of things just getting slightly worse all of the time online, it seems like we've now reached the stage where we're all largely in agreement that yes, the internet isn't very good anymore, which has in turn inspired a lot of different writers recently to try to figure out exactly why, and more importantly, how to fix it. So let's start with the why. The earliest and most concise take was probably from technologist and blogger Cory Doctorow, who, in a January essay about why TikTok feels bad now, coined the term "inshitification." It describes the process of a platform or marketplace getting lazier, dumber, and more closed off. Though I actually think one of the best articulations of why everything sucks so bad right now was actually the recent unhinged and borderline fascist screed titled "The Techno-Optimist Future," written by Anderson Horitz's Mark Anderson. "Techno-optimists believe that societies, like sharks, grow or die," he wrote. And this mindset is exactly why everything on the internet feels so bad right now. Folks like Mark Andreessen think that everything that is good is downstream of growth, which is not true. It's almost the opposite, actually. Kyle Chayka in The New Yorker went with a more human-oriented diagnosis, calling the current web an echoing hallway, and that the social media web as we knew it, a place where we consume the posts of our fellow humans and post it in return, appears to be over. And Charlie Warzel in The Atlantic went big concept, blaming the bad e-vibes of our current moment on dark patterns, or the deceptive bits of web design that can trick people into certain choices online, which have consumed our digital spaces. So, to sum up, Big companies, led by men who think societies are sharks, ate the web. They filled it with bad automation and have grown it to a scale where they can no longer manage it. And now we got to talk about solutions. George Washington University professor David Karpf wrote a good response to Anderson's post, arguing that we should actually take a more pragmatic approach to technology. And Rusty Foster, in the newsletter Today in Tabs, took this idea a bit further, writing, "A Discord server can be used to coordinate a Bitcoin heist or to coordinate a relay race team. A hammer can build things or break things." And my close friend, reporter Katie Notopoulos, in the MIT Technology Review, outlined a few specific ways to fix the rot. One of them is that sometimes you have to pay for stuff online. Her other ideas include more federated platforms and more granular moderation.
I think there are examples of all of these things working already. I mean, something like Dropout TV is a good example. Heck, even Substack. If you want to find it, you can find it. There's proof everywhere that smallish digital media businesses can work in our current environment. And early in the pandemic, young TikTok stars realized you needed a digital home base, whether that was a YouTube channel, Instagram page, or Linktree.
But I'm also a pretty big believer in the idea that once you have a name for something that's happening online, it's pretty much already over. Whether it's a meme or a trend, or in this case, a general vibe that everything is bad all the time online. Whatever the new status quo is, I assume has already arrived, and I actually think the rut that we feel like we're all in might actually already be over. I assume there's some pocket of the web out there that has figured out the new way that we'll all be using it pretty soon, and if I had to bet on any group in particular, I'd probably say it's whatever the furries are doing right now. They seem to be pretty ahead of the game historically.
My big unified theory of the internet is that the way we use it is constantly being redefined by conflict and disaster. I brought this up in an interview with Bloomberg last month. If you look back at particularly big years for the web, 2001, the stretch from 2010 to 2012, 2016, 2020, etc., you typically find moments of big global upheaval arriving right as a suite of new digital tools reach an inflection point with users. Then suddenly we have a new way of being online. Unlike previous global conflicts, the current narrative right now is that there isn't really any online discussion happening at all, which isn't really true. And making things even more confusing, people think the internet in 2023 works the same way it did in, say, 2013. Every millennial seems to be experiencing an overwhelming feeling that, well, as Wired.com recently wrote, first-gen social media users have nowhere to go. But that's not actually true. It's just that TikTok is where everyone is, and TikTok doesn't work like Facebook or even YouTube, which is why the White House is agonizing over the popularity of TikTok hashtags right now instead of canceling my student loan debt. What the Biden administration doesn't get is that we're now firmly in a TikTok-first, and by extension, video-first internet. At some point in the last 2 to 3 years, a likely permanent shift happened online. It's a video-first medium now, and most major social platforms use short videos as coal for their recommendation engine. And if you want to build up an account quickly in 2023, which in turn helps you promote the content you're making online, then the easiest way to do that is with video. And TikTok's algorithm is almost like the inverse of something like Facebook's. Its network effect isn't based on mass appeal that snowballs into global virality, but about identifying niches. Your TikTok and my TikTok will never be the same, and that increasingly means that my internet and your internet are not the same. And if you actually tried to view TikTok the way you would Facebook, it wouldn't actually make any sense. In fact, here, let me show you. My researcher Adam and I have been tracking the most liked videos on TikTok for the last 7 months now. This video was the most liked video last month. It has 37.9 million likes and 313 million views. Have you seen it? Have you even heard of the user before? I doubt it. Let's do another one. Back in July, when girl dinner was the most popular TikTok trend / moral panic, guess what the most watched videos on the platform were about? Girl dinner. The girl dinner hashtag has about 2 billion views overall and 1 billion this year, which sounds like a lot until you compare it to something like hashtag Halloween, the second biggest hashtag on the platform, in October, which has 20 billion views in the last 120 days. All right, let's do one more, just to bring us back to Israel and Palestine. In the last 120 days, the Israel hashtag has been used around 220,000 times and has been viewed around 3 billion times. The hashtag for Palestine has been used 230,000 times and has been viewed around 2 billion times. So yes, Palestine is slightly more popular on TikTok, but nothing out of line with what outlets like NPR have found by, actually polling Americans along political and generational lines. This is why a lot of verified guys on X are suddenly real suspicious of TikTok. Like this guy who thinks it's a Chinese psyop, and this guy who thinks Hamas is using TikTok to brainwash high school students or something. I don't know, I couldn't read the whole thing because it was boring and dumb.
Which is to say that the internet can't really be viewed in aggregate anymore. You can't look at it like it's one monolith, one thing, one filter bubble. It's not. And if you try to do that, you're going to come away with some very confusing, contradictory, and oftentimes very wrong conceptions of what's actually going on in the world. My point is this: the internet has changed, and a lot of people don't want to accept that. We've moved from an internet where we were communicating peer-to-peer, sharing things person to person, to an internet where people are broadcasting things. People are making content. They're not really communicating anymore. And that's why platforms that were created for sharing and communicating feel dead. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. And that's why apps like TikTok or YouTube don't. We have a different way of using the web now. And we can complain about it all we want, but it's not going back to the way it was. So what we have to do is figure out new ways of using the internet that fit the current landscape. Even if it means downloading TikTok and posting there a lot. I'm so old and I'm so tired. Thanks for watching. As always, please hit the subscribe button, like the video, leave a comment, check out my newsletter, Garbage Day. You can find that at garbageday.email. And I want to thank my lovely editor, Alan, for helping me put this video together. And also, swing by the comment section. Let me know what you want me to cover next. I want to do this more often. So let me know down below. And see you next time. Bye bye.